is also affiliated with the Aging, Health and Wellbeing Research Center at Sunway University to work on issues related to aging and palliative care. Please join me in giving Dr. Lau a warm welcome as she leads the upcoming plenaries. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the session. Okay, for this session, we are pleased to have three distinguished speakers with us this morning to share their valuable insights from their area of expertise. Our first speaker is Dr. Renyu Rajan, who is a consultant upper gastrointestinal and bariatric surgeon. She is highly regarded for her clinical excellence and compassionate approach to patient care. She is also a dedicated advocate for equitable access to obesity treatment and serves as the principal advisor to the Bariatric Buddy organization, where she supports patients in their weight loss journeys and champions holistic well-being. Her talk today is titled Obesity and Cancer, Are We Doing Enough to Destigmatize Obesity Treatment? Please join us in welcoming Dr. Renyu Rajan.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Can we have the slides? And the clicker. Clicker. Someone get me the clicker. So don't tolak my time yet, huh? Because when a surgeon speaks, she usually shows scary videos, so I want to give some time and show you scary videos. Okay, so I'm an upper GI surgeon now. A lot of people don't know what we are or who we are, and a lot of people just think we're gastros. You know about colorectal surgeons, right? So colorectal surgeons actually just take care of 1.5 meters of your colon. That's it. The rest of the gut is us. So the difference between gastro and us is that we chop, and they're more investigative, therapeutic to a certain extent, but we are surgeons in the surgical field. So upper GI surgeons, when I finished, there were 23 of us for 32 million population. Right now, there are 30. Now, why people don't realize we exist or have never heard of that word is actually because there is no penterjemahan dalam Dewan Bahasa dan Pustaka. So until, I think about 2 weeks ago, there was an interview in a newspaper, and I was quoted as being pakar bedah bahagian perut atas or usus atas. I can't remember, but I don't think that's the right word because we don't really have a terminology yet. Clicker? Clicker? Somebody, you don't want me to talk, or you want to write the slides for me? Or since this university is quite high-tech, is there something on the table? Sorry, that was taken on a good day. So I look a little different. This is because the schedule got changed from afternoon slot to morning, so I look like this now. Guys, no clicker. Somebody ran with a clicker. So a lot of people think bariatric, okay, now the difference between an upper GI surgeon and a bariatric surgeon, and why I have the word bariatrics behind my name. NSR-wise, we are upper GI, we're subspecialty after general surgery. Bariatrics, who can do bariatrics in this country? General surgeons can do bariatrics, so they call themselves bariatric surgeons. Upper GI surgeons, because we do reflux, we're cancer surgeons primarily, but we also handle refractory reflux cases, GERD cases, Barrett's esophagus, that the gastro find difficult to handle, so they send to us. When they come to us, does not mean they have surgery. We're not just butchers, we don't chop everybody, but we decide who needs to be operated on and who doesn't. But we also do bariatric surgery. So if there are complications throughout the country from bariatric surgery, it also gets sent to us. So to make people understand that we also do bariatric surgery, because the general public understands bariatrics more than they actually know upper GI surgeons, we just added that word. But as per NSR, we're actually just upper GI surgeons. Yeah? Okay. So here you go, course on who we are. All right, so this is my talk today. So we're going to talk about obesity and cancer, and I think you guys are the country's top-notch people to talk about this, but I'm going to share about how bariatrics comes into play and helps these patients, right? Okay. All right, I don't need to tell you this. You see this in every single slide, that Malaysia is the most obese country. Obebi jago kampung for 7 years running. I think now maybe 9. So we've moved from Southeast Asia to Asia's second most obese, and I'm pretty sure at some point we're going to be top 3 in the world. Okay, because especially we don't want to lose to our neighbors. I think Thailand, even if they run as fast as they can't catch up to us. That's how obese we are. All right, so 1 in 2 Malaysians are obese. So there's a joke, among surgeons who perform bariatrics that you'll never run out of business because they can't run from you. Okay. All right. So why has this happened in Malaysia? The industrialization of an agricultural-based country. You see our nene and all that. They're so small size. If they're 70, 80 or 90 today, they're still slim because they moved all their limbs and not just their thumbs, right? So there is this. And for those of us who have served the government, I mean, I hope this is not going online somewhere, but let's think about how we do rounds. All of you are clinicians, right? Largely? Right? Okay, so how do we do rounds? We come to work, we would have had some light breakfast at home. We come do our rounds and then we go sit with the team and have some kopi again. And then by the time you know, you come back to work, you do some paperwork and then it's lunch again. And then afternoon rounds and then tea again. And then you go home, dinner. And then if you're watching football late night, people bring their 1-month-old baby out to watch bola sepak in this country, you know. And mamak shops are open like till late night. You go to UK, 4 o'clock it's closed during the winter and we are cursing. Correct or not? Semua nak pergi UK time winter, nak shopping semua. Tapi after that, when you see it's like 4:30, 6 o'clock, tutup. It's like bad mood like that. You can't close. Malaysians can't have their shops closed at 6 o'clock or 4 o'clock, okay? We need food. And persepsi, even if somebody who's obese is trying to get thin or slim or healthy, people say, kurus lah, especially, you know, we've got Indian, Malay, Chinese, right? The Indian culture, we like our faces round. Like, I also was a bit on the heavier side at one point. When I lose weight, the first thing is, your face so kurus already, you know? If you're kurus and healthy and you're a marathon runner, they're like, you sakit apa ya? Siapa buat apa? Somebody did something, maybe too much eyes on you, evil eyes, you know. You should, and then you get all this mandi bunga advice and stuff like that. So it's a, if you go abroad, people say, how are you doing? How's your day? Here they come and touch your stomach. You know, there's no barrier. Talk about setting barriers, there's none. All right? You hear this all the time. If you gather the courage to tell your friend, hey, your kid is looking a little bit, you know, maybe enroll in taekwondo or something. Hey, no, this one grandfather genes, big bones. We hear this even among the educated class. You hear this among the less fortunate, it's fine. You hear this among the educated class, big bones. There's no such thing. You're either tall or short. There's no such thing as wide bones, okay? Don't pick on the 0.000001 anomaly and say, yeah, there is, according to this journal. Okay. All right. Ayo, you guys really sabotaging me. I cannot play my slides. Okay. Where am I supposed to point? No battery, Okay, next. All right, complications of obesity, head to toe. And that's why EPF account 2 is actually recognized pengeluaran untuk kesihatan bagi tujuan bariatric surgery. So it's actually in the front page. You can actually use your account 2 EPF for weight reduction surgery. Okay, not liposuction, not tummy tuck, but bariatric surgery, right? Next, please. Next, please, since the ticker is not working. All right, so obesity is a pro-inflammatory state. Head to toe, I always tell patients who are obese, a BMI 40, they come to my clinic, doctor, I'm healthy. It's just I'm this weight. I always tell them, no, you're smiling on the outside, but your cells are screaming on the inside. Your cells are constantly under stress. Ya ke, I tak rasa. It's denial all the way. Anybody more than BMI 26, you've got fatty liver. But to get them to accept, right? I never say yes to everybody who walks into my clinic and asks for weight loss surgery. I always take them through this journey of realization, acceptance, break that denial. Then I say, okay, let's operate. Until they say, yes, I've got diabetes and no more. Saya bukan diabetes, saya borderline. Borderline, I like that word. No, Malaysians and borderline cannot. I always, whenever people say borderline, I say, okay, we are in Shah Alam now and borderline is Klang, you're in Kerteh. That's how diabetic you are, you know, and I say that, they laugh, no more crying already kind of thing. It's easier to convince through comedy than by talking seriously sometimes, okay? Because when you talk seriously, your blood pressure shoots up. Because you're like, auntie, you're diabetic. No, I'm not. You start talking about numbers and you just better joke and make it light so that they accept. You want to win an argument with these patients, you meet them halfway, okay, through comedy. Okay, next please. All right, so it's an epidemic. It's no longer just a cosmetic thing, it's actually an epidemic. Now, classifikasi orang obese. Why are we obese at 27.5? We don't follow the 30 criteria because we're shorter and we are bahagia. You know what we say? No, it's just, no, my wife is keeping me happy. Think again, did your premium increase? Maybe she increased the, the payout, you know, for your life. And she's feeding you because she's investing in that. So I always joke and tell patients, I say, it's this central obesity that kills you. You may not be big in your arms and legs, but it's the central obesity that leads to 50 diseases. So for us, 27.5, you're already obese. And why does this happen? Again, just like that borderline theory, right? No, this is, you know, the grandfather genes, keturunan. It's nothing like that. It's not running in your family. The problem is nobody's running in your family. Okay. So Putrajaya tops the obese list. I still think they're holding the fort. Malays, Indians, Chinese, and you'll see the Indian population. We may not be many in this country, but we are the most obese. The reason being, if you've got Indian friends, think about how we feed, how they are fed. I will tell you how I was fed, lah. Okay, Indian mixed blood, but still the genes are very strong. They feed round. It's very sedap, by the way. You have to try it if you've never tried it in your life. Huh? You mix all the curry, you make ball rice, and shove it in the kid's mouth. If you got Indian neighbor, you see how their feeding time is like war time. Shove and then ketuk the kepala, bus already come already, faster drink water. The sulam air thing, we do it all the time. Okay, so by the time when Malaysian Indian is like 50 or, no, forget 50, 36 years, we've already got GERD issues. Okay, because we just destroy our entire, so this ball rice, and I think it's a survival thing. We overfeed our children when we are younger because we feel only if they eat, they can study. Yo, this is a very tough crowd. Huh? I'm trying to infuse comedy here. Nobody's laughing. It's not racism, you know. It's actually out of love. I'm Indian. I can say it, okay? All right. So that's it. My Chinese friends, you know how they feed kids? They just put the food there and the kid plays with the food. It's like, lantak lah, you hungry, you eat later. Malays are somewhere in the middle, the sweet spot, okay? So now not only adults and Malaysians are getting obese, you just go to your kid's school and see what's happening. Kid will be walking like this with nugget in hand. Maybe got 3 sticks of nugget. And then syrup water. When I talk about this on national TV and I say, oh, you know, every pediatric conference that I get invited to, we're talking about childhood obesity. Oh, climbing 15%, I think it's 19 or 20% now. What are we doing about it? When I say, you know, why can't we just see, I sat on the tender board in my hospital when I was in the government service for medical device. It's not that difficult to come up with tender specs. You're awarding tenders to canteens, just award tenders to people who can match the menu that you're giving lah. Don't give option keropok leko and syrup ice on the side. Create 8 menus to be rotated in a month. Make it all healthy. Do a pilot school project or whatever it is. When I say this, you know what they'll say? Oh, we need Jamie Oliver. Why? No smart people in our country. I got white blood in me and I don't say, come, let's bring the white man to this country and learn something again and again and again. Sampai bila, you know? We've got very brilliant people here, I'm sure, who can come up with 8 menus to be rotated in a month. Right? So then they'll say, oh, nanti tak ada orang nak ambil tender. Tak ada orang, bagi kat siapa yang nak lah. Don't give it to your friends and family because you know who they are, correct or not? Give it to the right people who want to do the right job. But I guess in our country, when we want to create programs, you must form jawatan kuasa. You must have meeting in Langkawi. You must spend money. If creating a tender spec costs you maybe 50 cents, it's not in, right? So change doesn't have to cost money. Change just has to have a voice, and that voice cannot just be me, correct or not? I need more people to say healthy school food Malaysia has to be a thing, and it does not need to cost money. Right? So this is reality. Fatty liver is happening in that child who is walking around with that. Okay? So this is just another day in Malaysia. We see this on the roads all the time, and we just brush it off because it's normal for us. A Japanese guy comes to Malaysia, he'll be like, culture shock. We grow up seeing this, so it's normalized. Somebody who's on the smaller size is abnormal now. Kau sakit apa Kau dah check ke tak? Obesity and cancer, head to toe, 10 cancers are caused by obesity and maybe even more. This is what we're seeing. People are putting up their kids' pictures for likes. The more Michelin you are, you get more likes. That's what it is right now. I will not tell an oncologist about cancer because I think you guys can run a whole year's program for me. But this is his pathogenesis. You Google it, obesity and cancer, it's all there, all right? But from a surgical point, I want to tell you how reflux is not just about the injap being longer, but it's also increased intra-abdominal pressure. So what happens is the central obesity, you've got adipose tissue here, right? It builds up the pressure so high, it pushes. It's like, okay, imagine 3rd trimester pregnancy, those of you who've had babies. In 3rd trimester, first 2 trimesters, you're like, wow, taking photographs every day, planning pregnancy photos and all that. You know, tangan all still kecil and everything, smiling. 3rd trimester, like, please get out, please. Like leave because you're burping and having reflux every day, right? You're trying not to hate that child because it's your child, but you're like, you can come out now, okay? So, but the difference between reflux in a pregnancy versus reflux in obesity is that kid comes out in 9 months. Fat babies, fat cells don't leave you. They're there forever, kind of thing. You don't deliver that child unless you lose that fat line, okay? So what happens is that stomach gets pushed up and constant acid going up leads to this. Okay, play. No. Can we go back to that video, please? Can someone play that video for me? Play. play it. We tested just now, everything was playing very fine. No need the audio, mute it please, yeah. Because I say scary things when I record out of, being like, why are you doing this to yourself? You see the amount of fat. Okay, so I'm actually pulling out stomach. Okay, so what's happening is, that's the diaphragm. The white sheet, patient's head is on that side, leg is this side. That white divider is actually the diaphragm. And that hiatus, all of us got hiatus. We must have hiatus, otherwise the esophagus doesn't penetrate and go down. But the hiatus is supposed to be just sikit lah, extra, 0.8 cm. This is like a whole goer. What's beating inside there is the heart. So about 50% of the stomach was actually in the chest. Okay, that's how much all that fat was pushing everything up. Can you imagine? So do you think if I only repair the hiatus, let's say I ketatkan, I pull everything down, I ketatkan the injap, you really think with that obesity being there, the stomach's not going to get pushed back up? If God created our injap so cantik, and it can be destroyed, I'm just a human being. How much can I stitch that it can be more perfect than what God created, right? So persistent obesity is going to cause that GERD to come back. Next video, please. You can't time me live like this. Few more videos to show. Okay, please play this. This is a CT scan. What's above that, that's the diaphragm. What's above that is actually the chest. So you're going to see the stomach go into the chest next to the heart. Just watch that, huh? How are these patients not going to have, and that's obesity, if you tell me that's not obesity, that's obesity. So you see, can you see the stomach? What's bright is the heart, and what went up just now was actually the stomach. Next slide, please. Sorry lah guys, I thought I can show this better for you, but next slide. Okay, so this is all papers that will tell you about failure rate of obesity, anti-reflux surgery, if we do only that in patients who are obese. 1/3 will fail. Why do you think gastros don't believe in fundoplication? Gastros rarely refer cases to us, upper GI surgeons, and they will tell patients that fundoplications fail because of this. It's not their fault. What they're saying is not wrong, because surgeons are not talking to patients about outcome. Surgeons, if they want to help patients lose weight, are being told that, oh, sorry, this treatment is not covered by insurance because it's cosmetic. So our hands are tied. You tell a patient who is obese like that, based on that CT scan, you saw how thick the adiposity was, you tell them to what? You close up Saturday Dataran Merdeka, you think they're running. No, they're going there to take Instagram pictures. Because they can't run, because they got knee, ankle, plantar fasciitis, knee, ankle problems, and plantar fasciitis. Okay? So this is Barrett's esophagus. So what we are looking at is esophagus, then the valve, and then inside there is stomach. So all of this is acid corrosion. A lot of patients come to us with CA esophagus, distal esophagus CA, because, with symptoms of dysphagia, very pronounced dysphagia. And when you ask them, sebelum ni ada tak lekat-lekat? Biasalah, saya kalau sulam air baru boleh telan. Which if you ask a lot of 30-plus-year-old Malaysians, they'll say, yeah, I eat and drink. If I don't drink, it's susah a bit to go. So they don't realize this is actually cancer symptoms because most Malaysians have GERD. And GERD symptoms are also like that. By the time you vomit blood, the first impression is, kau kena santau kot, jom pergi bomo. They go everywhere. By the time they come to us, it's spread to 3 organs at least. So all we can do is just palliative surgery or stent these patients. Very rarely we get T3 tumors. As yucky as this looks, this is actually T3. It's not T4 yet. So this is gastric gist. Now I want to show you, sorry, go back to this. I don't know whether you can appreciate that white. So this is a resected stomach. This was a sleeve gastrectomy specimen. It's actually a lot bigger, but because this is contracted, it looks small. Can you see, I don't know where, this white dot there? That's on the serosa part of the stomach that I resected. That white dot that looks like a fat deposit, right, is actually a GIST tumor. So while I was doing my laparoscopic surgery, because endoscopically, I didn't see this. It's tiny, it's outside. Because GIST tumors are submucosal, right? You don't see it unless it's big and it's dimpled and it's necrotic. So this was actually what I saw when I was doing my laparoscopic surgery. I was, she was a 50-plus-year-old, if I'm not mistaken, BMI 32.7, no family history of cancer. When I see these kind of things, I don't just say, oh, it's just fat and leave it. I actually send the specimen to my pathologist to diagnose, and it came out as GIST and with all margins clear. But it was a GIST tumor, and she didn't need Gleevec because I think my oncologist deemed it low risk. She's now 6 months, she's actually now 1.5 years post-surgery. She's lost significant amount of weight and she's doing very well, no longer diabetic, and she's very, very happy. You see how an incidental, we keep talking about obesity causing cancer. Tumor markers are not accurate. Endoscopy can only diagnose so much. But most of the time we find things intra-op, and I always tell patients, as sad as you are listening to this Bershuko, we picked it up. And during your weight loss surgery, we found it and we removed it. So I always try to change patients' mindset, and that becomes now a stronger reason for them to be compliant to my advice. Kalau tidak dah potong, senang je tak nak ikut cakap doktor. Now dah kata cancer tu dia takut sikit, okay? Fatty liver in children, you saw all those nugget eating kids just now, right? So this is what's happening. By the time they're adults, when I go in for GERD surgery or weight loss surgery, please play this video. This is what I see. Half the time my nurses are like, doctor, macam minyak dagu lah. For those of you, please Google what minyak dagu is. Please play this video. Please play this video. Please play this video. So what I'm doing is I'm actually lifting the liver for me to operate on the hiatus. And when I lift, just because of the light from the telescope, my laparoscopy device, right? You see how it's dripping? This is not an anomaly. This is 9 out of 10 cases that I operate on. Mana tak kurus? This is what I'm heavy lifting every day at work, you know? Okay. I don't need gym. No need. I probably have slipped disc at multiple levels also. Okay? So, my patients tumpah minyak lagi banyak daripada darah. Because laparoscopy surgery now is very advanced. We got good anesthetics, they bleed very little. Maybe one gauze kind of thing. But the amount of oil that comes out from that liver that's blocking my view, right, is a lot more. Okay? So I jokingly say it's not minyak dagu, this is minyak fatty liver. So there's a lot of papers that will tell you about how bariatric surgery improves steatosis, NASH and all that. You let this fatty liver go on for some time. Now this was again an incidental finding. I abandoned the procedure, called my liver surgeons in, and then we had to then refer to HPB, and this patient ended up having hepatic, okay? Of course, throughout that process, she lost weight as well. Can you play this? So when I lifted the liver, this patient was planned for actually bariatric surgery. So I'm lifting the liver because the stomach is below the liver, right? And that's what I saw, which was missed by ultrasound. See, we don't do CT scans for every patient going for bariatric surgery or GERD. We do ultrasounds. There's no indication for CT scan and exposure to contrast, right? So an ultrasound missed it. Why? Thick abdominal wall. You're going to miss it. So that's the hiatus. But did you see that dimple earlier? Right? That's liver cancer. Okay? So I just took a video. I took some biopsies and all that, and I just came out. Next, please. Next. So a lot of times, whatever we rely on, our imaging or our tumor markers, this is what I'm trying to tell people. We preach obesity causes cancer, but we, surgeons, we do nothing about it, you know? So this is another patient who came to me. Now, I do upper and lower GI screening because 10 years ago, I just want to share with you all my own personal experience. 10 years ago, I stuck to protocol, which is before any GI surgery, which is fundoplication or bariatric surgery, we do OGDS. Unless the patient complains of lower GI symptoms, then we do colono. Most of the time, most patients, because they malu want to have colonoscopy, they will lie and say they got no symptoms. So there was one particular patient that I actually did not do, at that time it was protocol not to have colonoscopies. And 3 years after bariatric surgery, she said she had some discomfort. I put in a colono and it was a full-blown CA colon with liver mets, lung mets and everything else. That just told even though she was smaller size, she was healthy. But in my thinking was, did I miss something that many years ago, 2-3 years ago? You know, should I have done a screening colonoscopy? And that just changed my practice. So till today, now, for the last whatever years, I do OGDS and colonoscopy for all my patients for the first time. Surveillance is just OGDS alone. But if you're seeing me for the first time, I will convince these patients to have OGDS and colono, irrespective of whether you have symptoms or not. This is a patient that ran away from me when I said, I'm going to do a colonoscopy. He came back 3 months later after surveying many doctors and he said, okay, I'll operate with you. He wanted to have bariatric surgery done. And I said, then you agree to a colonoscopy. And I put in a colonoscopy and this is what I saw. Obviously, he didn't have bariatric surgery. I referred to a colorectal surgeon. It was a T3 tumor, margins were clear, and his life was saved. He was sad, he cried. I broke the news even before the HP came back because this is cancer. Looks like cancer, smells like cancer. You just need to wait for the HP to just know what cancer it is, right? So when I broke the news, he was very sad, devastated. Of course, they'll say, datang doktor je tengok dah tahu cancer. It's like we are bearers of bad news kind of thing, you know. And I shifted his mindset and I said, look, there was something that made you come back. Yes, you were shy to show me your bum and get a colonoscopy done, but you came back. Something brought you back to me and we did the colono and we found it. You got 3 young kids, fight this. Don't go to some BOMO and all that. Get resected, listen to what I'm saying and follow through. Of course, during cancer treatment, you're going to lose weight, so that's a bonus lah. So of course, again, like I said, infuse a little bit of humor when you think patients are like mental block already and not listening to you. So this guy is doing very well now, okay? Is bariatric surgery the new kid in the block? No, it's not. From 1953. In Malaysia, 1996, Prof. Frida Mia was the first surgeon. It started off with endocrine surgeons actually doing this surgery, and then it progressed to upper GI and general surgeons. So the first bariatric surgery, I wrote this paper, you can Google it up, was in 1996, and then we progressed. These are all the people who have helped made bariatric surgery what it is today, from open surgery to single incision surgery, and even now endoscopic sleeve gastrectomies. So there are a lot of guidelines. People will be saying, oh, but do we do it in government hospitals? We do. From 2004, it's been in our national guidelines. But not many people know it exists. We still think it's cosmetic because of what we see on social media where the celebrities are getting it done. A lot more non-celebrities are getting it done and living their best lives. So from 2004, it's been there, but the BMI criteria was 40, and slowly we brought it down to 32.5. The reason why we're not where, this is the endocrine guidelines, why we are not at 27.5 yet on par with what the Western countries are doing for Asians, because there are Asians in the Western countries as well, is because you can't create guidelines for private hospitals separately and for government hospitals. Every guideline has to be universal, right? So every 0.1 that we reduce is going to cost billions, millions if not billions of ringgit in terms of subsidy. So we have to consider that as well when we're creating guidelines for the country. Now there was a small dip in 2023 because not many surgeons actually answered the questionnaire. But based on our latest survey, about 4,000 bariatric cases are being done per annum. And with the endoscopic sleeve, I think it's only going to rise, all right? Like I said, we're not going to run out of obese patients at the current trajectory. Okay? Many types of procedures, but the two common types of procedures is a sleeve gastrectomy and a gastric bypass. Please play. Please play. So what we do is actually through laparoscopic surgery, incisions, very tiny incisions, we go in and we remove the greater curvature. This is a sleeve gastrectomy. The surgery takes as long as an appendicectomy. It's under an hour and a half, it's done, okay? So we remove the greater curvature, about 70% of the greater curvature, which controls your hunger. That's where the ghrelin hormone is. This surgery is not done in pediatric population in Malaysia because ghrelin is also a growth hormone, so you don't want to disrupt their growth, right? So that's why surgery is not the primary mode of treatment for pediatric obesity or adolescent obesity. So this is how it looks like. Next slide, please. Okay, so I always take a selfie with their stomach so they know how big it is. People always ask me, wow, that big. Your stomach is in the ulu hati here. But how come when we eat, we open up the button here, isn't it? Because it can stretch. But of course, by the time, I always take a picture by inflating air a little bit. You know why? Malaysians, if you show the uninflated one, they're like, that's it. That's all. You know? So psychologically, they're like, they're like, doctor didn't remove much, so that's why I'm still like this. So you have to inflate, show them how it looks like with food inside. Then only, I tell you, it's a psychology game through and through. From the day they come to clinic, they'll even ask you, doctor, kalau I tak ikut nasihat you, apa akan jadi? You akan mati. You just Google me. You'll find a lot of people telling you scary things about me. Dr. Renyu is tegas, Dr. Renyu garang. And then tears all coming out. Then after that, after some time, then they'll say, but she's nice. So I've got medical students in my OT, then this is what we do to them. We make them pose with stomach also because medical students smaller size so the stomach looks a lot bigger. Okay. Risk of surgery 0.3 as safe as gallbladder surgery. So we've moved from open to 5 incisions to 3 incisions to now 1. That's how it used to look like, conventional. 3-pot sleeve. When I came back in 2015, this is what we started doing. And then now single incision. So this was in 2016. That's the scar. Almost, you can't even see the scar. It's inside the umbilicus. The suku sparrow thing, please, for heaven's sake, okay? Our sparrow should be protein and not vegetables, okay? All right, because the way we cook our vegetables, it's all carbs. Nobody's eating just sayur mentah here. So support groups are very, very important. To destigmatize bariatric surgery, my patients went and registered an ROS, ROS registered, society called Bariatric Buddy Organization. It was a birthday present to me in 2.5 years ago. Obviously, I cried and thought if I died tomorrow, I've already achieved my aim in life. Because normally patients come and tell you, doctor, can you do it? This one, they're like, no, we will do it. And my aim and my vision for Bariatric Buddy is to be as strong as Makna someday. Because I think we have more obese than cancer patients in this country. So I think Bariatric Buddy Organization should be a voice. It's not a marketing campaign. It is actually to support anyone in their weight loss journey. That's it. And to destigmatize bariatric surgery. Please play this video. I'm done, but I just want you to play this video. I want to tell you about the patients in that video. This was not a video done by me. That video was actually done by the patients on their website. So that lady there is actually a pharmacist. She was 120 plus kgs and she's lost all that weight and she's a cyclist now. She's taking part in Power Man, in fact, tomorrow. Please play that video. Please play that video. Oh, I've never had to say please this many times. Tak boleh eh? No video. Just now we played it. Okay, never mind. Just go to Instagram or TikTok and please look up Bariatric Buddy Organization and you'll see that video. I've got 6 of my patients above 120 kilos who are actually running for Powerman. Powerman is a running and cycling event. They have taken part in 6 or 7 full marathons. I've got a 54-year-old who was 100 plus kilos who is an ultra marathoner. She's done 104 km 6 times, and the last UITM one, I think she got number 4. She sends me pictures of her nail tekope and all that, you know. And I'm like, what is that? Oh, doctor, this one is my piala. I ran in my nail tekope. You know, so their lives have changed. Patients with cancer, gynaes refer a lot of cancerous lesions who they've operated on to me for them to have weight reduction strategies so that the recurrence doesn't come back as well. So we see a multitude, different facades of weight loss, patients requiring weight loss that actually come through my operating table. So please, if there's something that you guys can take home today is the fact that not all bariatric surgeons are into bariatric surgery for cosmesis. Many of us are actually trying to make a change. It's just that maybe we are not as vocal on social media because we are busy with paperwork trying to make policy changes. One thing that I want you all to fight for is healthy food in schools. That should be a thing because otherwise your cancer rates are just going to climb higher and higher. My youngest stomach cancer patient is 17 years old and that was a stage 4 cancer with spine mets. So I'm seeing a lot of patients at a much younger alarming rate with cancer, and if we can do something, that has to start at home and in school. Number 2 is, of course, to destigmatize bariatric surgery for the purpose of reducing recurrence of cancers. And that can only happen if the exclusion clause in the insurance company's policies are removed. Right? Because if someone is obese, they want to get insurance, tak boleh. Obese, you tak boleh, BMI tak lepas. Kalau you were skinny and after 5 kids you put on weight, you want to get bariatric surgery, also tak boleh. You see how it's like almost racist, weight racism, you know? You took the policy for health. We're saying obesity causes health problems, but sorry, you can't have the surgery, even though it's been on our guidelines since 2004. Right? I'm the only, I think there are 2 of us in this country that are actually doing bariatric surgery with co-pay model using insurance. There are 14 insurance companies who are helping my patients. So if the bill is 40,000, the patients only end up paying about 5 to 6,000, same like what they pay in government hospitals to have bariatric surgery done. Even that amount that is not covered, patients can actually use to deduct from their EPF account too, and also pengecualian cukai for penyakit critical. So all this progress that we are making is in the last 8 years. But it's 1 or 2 surgeons trying to tell people that, hey, look, it's not cosmetic. So if there's something that I can ask from you all today is help to spread the word that it is not cosmetic, and there are people that you can work with that will actually help your patients achieve a healthier BMI target and prevent whatever cancers from coming back. Through cost-saving methods, that's not going to bankrupt them, right? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Renyu. So we will keep the Q&A to the end of the panel session. So now we will have our second speaker, who is Prof. Dr. Rosmawati Mohamed, a well-respected leader in hepatitis and liver cancer advocacy. Prof. Rosmawati was appointed as the founding co-chairperson of the WHO Strategic and Technical Advisory Committee for viral hepatitis at both the global and Western Pacific regional levels. She is also the co-chairperson and founding committee member of the Coalition to Eradicate Viral Hepatitis in the Asia Pacific. Unfortunately, Prof. Rosmawati is unable to join us this morning as she is currently in Taipei, but she has recorded her presentation. So let's play the recording.
My presentation will focus on decentralizing prevention and early liver cancer detection to the community. Now, this slide shows the global landscape of primary liver cancer. HCC is one of the leading causes of cancer death in many countries. Now, alarmingly, the number of people diagnosed with and dying from HCC is predicted to rise by a whopping 55% between 2020 and 2040. Now, liver cancer due to some causes is indeed preventable. Therefore, control efforts must be prioritized. Now, this latest data from the National Cancer Registry showed increasing incidence of HCC in Malaysia, now the fifth most common cancer, rising from previously number 8. Now let's look at the HCC landscape and related issues. Now, unlike other cancers, we know what are the underlying causes of HCC. Hepatitis B remains as the commonest cause of HCC, but fatty liver disease or metabolic dysfunction-associated fatty liver disease or MAFLD is rising rapidly as a significant contributor to the overall HCC burden. Now, this latest study showed that 42% of cases diagnosed have underlying MAFLD and will probably soon overtake hepatitis B as the commonest cause of HCC. The changing epidemiology of HCC is not at all surprising, as MAFLD is highly prevalent, affecting 1 in 3 adults, driven by the rising rates of obesity and diabetes, which have reached epidemic proportions. One of the main issues with HCC is the late diagnosis. Now, this study showed that nearly 50% of HCC patients have advanced stage HCC at first presentation, with an abysmal 5-year survival rate of less than 13%. Now, the reason for the late diagnosis is that surveillance is very much underutilized in clinical practice. So, in this study, only 21% of patients were in any sort of surveillance program, even lower than the pooled surveillance estimate of 26% from these 29 studies. Now let's look at an integrated model incorporating HCC early detection, care, and control as part of the proposed National Strategic Plan for NCD, including cancer. Since September last year, MOH NCD Division has held 4 workshops and meetings to draft the National Strategic Plan for NCD 2026 to 2030. A comprehensive plan for HCC was proposed with 4 pillars of the strategic framework. Now, the key action plans include optimizing HCC prevention and early detection through scaling up of detection of HCC risk factors to identify those at high risk for HCC to undergo surveillance. Now, the Liver Health Initiative focuses on decentralization, prevention, and early HCC detection to the community, which includes integration with hepatitis services. Now, those at high risk for HCC will be linked to care to undergo 6 monthly ultrasound and a combination of alpha-fetoprotein and another tumor marker, PIVKA2. Now, the other pillars of the strategic framework include enabling access to a multidisciplinary approach to diagnosis and evidence-based treatment to HCC, strengthening HCC data and digital health transformation to build capacity of HCPs or healthcare providers and empower communities as part of an integrated approach to NCDs. Now let's look at screening of the underlying liver disease to identify those at high risk for HCC. Now, screening is based on the clinical practice guidelines on the management of type 2 diabetes, which recommends method screening using ALT and AST, and then stratifying liver disease severity using FIB-4. Now, fibrosis is a major determinant of adverse liver outcomes, and those with high FIB-4 of more than 3.25 is likely to have advanced fibrosis and/or cirrhosis, who are also at risk of liver cancer. In clinical practice, everyone with MAFLD and/or elevated ALT and AST is routinely assessed for other common liver diseases. So screening for HCC risk factors can also be routinely incorporated as part of the MAFLD screening. Now, metabolic syndrome is also highly prevalent. So, MAFLD, being the liver manifestation of metabolic syndrome, is closely related to other NCDs such as heart disease and cancer. So, in fact, the commonest causes of death associated with MAFLD worldwide is first, cardiovascular, second, extrahepatic cancers, and third, liver-related. So, MAFLD is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, and liver fat predicts those at risk of cardiovascular events and death. So MAFLD screening among diabetics and the obese not only identify those at risk of liver cancer, but also individuals likely to have coronary artery disease. So this meta-analysis showed that 45% of MAFLD individuals have coronary artery disease. As there is substantial overlap in the measures required to address MAFLD and the other major NCDs, there is a need to address NCDs holistically and integrate the 4 focus areas of NCDs in the National Strategic Plan. Now, this is an algorithm on simplified approach to liver disease screening and stratification within the community, proposed to be done nationwide at MOH Health clinics as well as GP clinics, and including also as part of the B40 screening. Now, using simple blood tests as recommended by the clinical practice guidelines, a differentiated care strategy follows based on the FIP4. So only those at high risk for advanced fibrosis or cirrhosis who are also at risk for liver cancer will be referred to specialists. Now, liver cancer awareness and community screening was organized in conjunction with World Cancer Day last year, offering free basic health screening. Now, liver stiffness measurement or FibroScan was also offered, but only to those with high risk of methylated, such as those with type 2 diabetes and or those with obesity. Now, the registration was capped at 175 participants. So noteworthy, the mean age in this community cohort was 49 years. Now, of the 72 totally asymptomatic methylated individuals with diabetes and or obesity who underwent FibroScan, 10 or 14% have advanced fibrosis or cirrhosis. That is a much higher prevalence than expected. So in contrast, the prevalence of advanced liver fibrosis is much lower amongst methylated individuals in this community involved in the NHMS or the National Health and Morbidity Survey, most likely due to a smaller proportion in this cohort of diabetics and also smaller proportion of those in the older age group compared to the previous cohort in the community screening. Now, healthcare initiatives were recently initiated at NADI, which consists of 1,099 network of digitally equipped community centers. Now, AMM, or Academy of Medicine of Malaysia, in collaboration with MRIC Healthcare, has incorporated fatty liver disease screening aligned with the NADI objectives within the community. So the first methodology screening at NADI was together with the National Heart Center or IGN team, the latter offering cardiac screening. Now, similar to the previous community screening activities, liver stiffness measurement or FibroScan was only offered for those with type 2 diabetes and or those who are obese. Now, amongst this group of individuals, alarmingly, 26% who are totally asymptomatic have advanced fibrosis and or cirrhosis. The FIP4 can be automated in the laboratory information system and therefore can bridge the gap from the clinical practice guidelines to implementation in practice. Now, FIP4 is carried out in UMMC, ACTM, UKM, and Premier Integrated Lab, the latter supporting pilot projects in the community, including screening for B40. So this slide shows the overall number of FIP4 tests done by Premier Integrated Lab over 29 months, which include tests from private hospitals, GP clinic, and dialysis centers. Now, of more than 1.2 million tests done, 2.3% of those tested have high FIP4, suggestive of advanced fibrosis or cirrhosis, and 13% are of intermediate risk. Now, to give an example of screening in the community among the diabetic patients who were seen at one of the GP clinic chain, the care clinics, 2.3% have high FIB4 suggestive of advanced fibrosis or cirrhosis, and 17% are of intermediate risk. So rather than referring large number of individuals to a tertiary center for liver stiffness measurement, we arrange FibroScan to be placed at a designated GP clinic for further testing of those with high and intermediate risk to identify those with advanced fibrosis or cirrhosis who require further assessment and need to be referred to tertiary setting. The current state of HCC management in a few Asia-Pacific countries is shown here on this slide. Now, without doubt, Japan is a leader in HCC surveillance and management with 4 key factors identified as essential to its success, namely, the first, presence of a national HCC surveillance program, sufficient political will and coordination, adequate funding, and the implementation of control efforts, including availability of robust surveillance protocols, providing education and access to high-quality treatments. So many Asia-Pacific countries have wonderful opportunities to enhance the management and surveillance of HCC. So for Malaysia, the drafting of the National Strategic Plan for NCD, including cancer, with key action plans for HCC, is indeed a positive development with significant political commitment shown. Now this is my last slide. With the increasing HCC burden in Malaysia, control efforts must be prioritized, particularly on prevention and early detection of HCC. Now, advancing early detection and access to cancer care in the community involves task sharing. Now, Project ECHO, which stands for Extension for Community Healthcare Outcomes, will be used to help build capacity, expand access to cancer care, and improve outcomes for patients facing one of the most deadly cancers. I will end by sharing that advancing early detection access to liver cancer care has been recently featured on the University of New Mexico website. With that, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Rosmawati, for the insightful presentation. So our last speaker of this session is Dr. Mengmeng, Associate Professor in the Department of Cancer Prevention at Sun Yat-sen University of Cancer Center. Dr. Lee is a cancer epidemiologist committed to advancing research on cancer prevention. Her work focuses on cancer overdiagnosis, lung cancer screening, and the health effects of environmental and metabolic factors. Let's welcome Dr. Lee.
Thank you, Chair, for the kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure for me to be here to talk about some of our recent work on lung cancer. Would you please show my slides? So this is my disclosure. Lung cancer is one of the most commonly diagnosed cancers and the leading cause of cancer deaths globally, with around 2.5 million new cases and 1.8 million deaths in 2022. And the burden of lung cancer has been rising rapidly over the past decades and is projected to reach 4.1 million cases and 3.2 million deaths by 2045. As we can see from this figure, lung cancer is the #1 killer in many countries, including Malaysia. There is a lot of evidence that low-dose CT screening can reduce lung cancer mortality. But the prerequisite is that the high-risk populations can be effectively selected. Currently, the most widely used risk assessment tools of lung cancer only focus on traditional risk factors such as age, smoking status, family history of lung cancer, and COPD, etc. But even in the best case scenario, over 30% of those lung cancer cases would still be missed. So it's really important to expand our knowledge regarding the risk factors for lung cancer. Metabolic syndrome is becoming an emerging public health challenge due to its high and rapidly increasing prevalence in most countries worldwide. And especially after the first presentation, I'm now realizing that I'm really picking up the relevant topic because of the high prevalence of obesity in Malaysia. Then what is metabolic syndrome? It's a cluster of interrelated risk factors, including hypertension, dyslipidemia, central obesity, and insulin resistance. For dyslipidemia, there are two indicators for it. One is high density lipoprotein cholesterol, and another is triglyceride. Why is it important? Because it can lead to multiple health issues, including cancer. As we know, deregulating cellular metabolism is an important hallmark of cancer, and there are some studies that examined the association between metabolic syndrome and lung cancer, but the results are inconsistent. And most of these studies are underpowered to test the null hypothesis. So we wanted to understand how the risk of lung cancer is associated with metabolic syndrome and its components, and what can modify their relationship. The process of metabolism involves metabolites. These small molecules play important roles in the development of many types of diseases. And there are a few studies that examined a limited number of lipids and metabolites and the risk of lung cancer, but obtained inconsistent results. So our second research question is, which metabolites are associated with the risk of lung cancer, and what are the underlying metabolic pathways? To address those two research questions, we conducted a post-hoc analysis based on a very large cohort. Over 500,000 participants were recruited from 22 centers in the UK. And questionnaires, physical measurements, and blood samples were taken as a baseline. And for a subset of those participants, around 100,000 participants, nuclear magnetic resonance approach was used to measure the levels of metabolites in the serum. During follow-up of this cohort, the diagnosis of cancer were captured through linkage to cancer registries. Based on data availability, we conducted two subcohorts. Subcohort 1 is to examine the association between metabolic syndrome and lung cancer, and subcohort 2 is mainly focused on metabolites. For subcohort 1, we finally included 300,000 participants. And as mentioned earlier, metabolic syndrome is composed of 5 components. And for this study, for hyperglycemia, we used a more stable measure of glycated hemoglobin instead of glucose, because non-fasting blood samples were taken for most participants. And the number of those components were counted, and the presence of any 3 of the components constitutes a diagnosis of metabolic syndrome. And this slide shows the baseline characteristics of subcohort 1 by metabolic syndrome status. Sorry that this is a busy slide. The key information for this slide is the high prevalence of metabolic syndrome, with around 23%, and over 80% of the participants had at least one disorder, so it's really an epidemic. And the prevalence of each component ranged from around 8% to over 60%. After a median follow-up of almost 11 years, over 2,000 participants developed primary lung cancer with higher incidence among the metabolic syndrome group. In the multivariate Cox regression models after adjusting for covariates, we found that metabolic syndrome can increase the risk of lung cancer by 21%. And the hazard ratios ranged from 1.1 to 1.5 when the number of disorders increased from 1 to 5. And elevated hazard ratios can be observed for several components, including low HDLC, elevated waist circumference, and hyperglycemia. In the analysis by histology, we found that both adenocarcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma can be affected by metabolic syndrome, and with stronger effects of low HDLC and hyperglycemia on squamous cell carcinoma. The association between metabolic syndrome and lung cancer can be modified by sex, with stronger effects in women, unfortunately. This phenomenon can be observed for all components of metabolic syndrome. For smoking, overall, we didn't find a statistically significant modification effect, but the rise of lung cancer due to metabolic syndrome was mainly elevated among smokers. And those increased risk was observed for almost all metabolic syndrome components for smokers, while only one in non-smokers. We also conducted a stratification analysis by use of medication, and we didn't find any modification effect. The results were similar both ways and without use of medication. And we also conducted several sensitivity analyses, and the results were very similar to our main findings. So the results are basically robust. And this study is published in Chest, and the journal also published an editorial discussing the clinical relevance and contribution of our study, highlighting the importance of adding obesity prevention to the recommendations of lung cancer prevention. And for subcohort 2, we finally included 90,000 participants. And the study participants' baseline characteristics are very similar to the total participants and subcohort 1. As mentioned in the beginning, a nuclear magnetic resonance approach was used to measure the levels of metabolites in the serum of those participants. To understand its reliability, we also estimate the correlation between NMR and routine clinical chemistry measurements, and we found high correlation between those two approaches. After adjusting for covariates and false discovery rate, we found a total of 109 metabolites that are associated with the risk of lung cancer. And among the positive associations are glycoprotein acetose, lactate, and pyruvate. Well, lipids, lipoprotein subfractions, glyceride phospholipids, apolipoproteins, fatty acids, and many others are negatively associated with the risk of lung cancer. We also conducted several sensitivity analyses, and the results were very similar. This heat map shows the correlation between the metabolites that we examined. And we can see that there's a very high correlation among them. So to deal with this high dimensional data, we further conducted a principal component analysis. And we selected the number of principal components based on eigenvalue and cumulative proportion of variance. Sorry for so many technical terms. And we finally included 9 principal components that accounted for 91% of the total variance. This figure shows the loadings of metabolic biomarkers contribution to each principal component. The larger, the size of those bubbles represent how much the metabolic biomarker contributes to each principal component. And we found that the major contributors of the first 4 principal components are lipoprotein subfractions, and for the last 5, metabolites are prominent contributors. And these are the results of the principal components in the multivariate analysis. We found 5 of them were statistically associated with the risk of lung cancer, with PC7 and PC8 showed positive associations, and PC1, PC2, and PC9 showing negative associations. I wouldn't go into the details of each principal component, but generally the results are very consistent with the results from each metabolite. We further conducted a pathway analysis to understand the underlying metabolic pathways by mapping the metabolites to the KEGG dataset. And we found 3 pathways that had an impact greater than 0.2. And among them, the linoleic acid metabolism pathway is statistically significant. And this study is led by one of my students, Lan Wu, and our study was published in BMC Medicine early this year. Among those studies, we found some very interesting results, including the different impacts of body mass index and waist circumference on lung cancer. Body mass index, BMI, both BMI and waist circumference are related to obesity, but they have different meanings. They refer to overall obesity and central obesity respectively. BMI cannot discriminate between fat and lean mass, nor does it reflect the fat distribution. Abdominal adiposity, on the contrary, is related to many health issues. And a lot of studies, including ours, have suggested that central obesity might serve as a better predictor of lung cancer. The obesity paradox related to BMI, there's another explanation is the residual confounding of smoking, because smoking is both associated with adiposity and higher lung cancer risk. And also Mendelian randomization evidence also supports a causal role of BMI in the risk of lung cancer, reinforcing the biological link between adiposity and lung cancer risk. This picture reiterates the message that BMI-based definition of obesity cannot distinguish the real obese persons. A more scientific approach is to incorporate the measurements of abnormal fat mass, as well as obesity-related organ dysfunction, or the limitations of daily activities. After we identify the obese persons, we can further divide those obesity into preclinical obesity and clinical obesity. And based on this new obesity diagnosis framework, a recent study found that clinical obesity had stronger associations than preclinical obesity. And those stronger associations with lung cancer may reflect the additive effects with excess adiposity and organ dysfunction. Among the metabolic disorders that we examined, consistent evidence has shown that low HDL-C is related to increased risk of lung cancer. We cannot preclude the possibility that there might be residual confounding of unhealthy lifestyle, but it's more likely that the ability of HDL-C to regulate inflammatory and proliferative pathways in lung cancer development. And for triglyceride, overall, we found no findings. Although with weak increases in lung cancer risk among women and tobacco users, these findings warrant further validations. And for hyperglycemia, indeed there is some evidence that high levels of glucose, insulin, and insulin resistance can increase the risk of lung cancer, and they might activate the signaling pathways and promote the development and prognosis of lung cancer. For the metabolites, we found elevated risk of lung cancer with glycoprotein acetose, which is an inflammation biomarker. Inflammation can predispose the development of cancer and accelerates all stages of tumorigenesis. Well, among others, we found consistent negative association between fatty acids, lipids, and lipoprotein fractions with the risk of lung cancer, and notably the polyunsaturated fatty acids, such as omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids and linoleic acid. The mechanism underlying those associations still remain unclear, but these results suggest the potential of using these metabolic biomarkers in the lung cancer screening programs. To summarize, these are a few take-home messages. From our first study, we recommend that lung cancer prevention should not only address smoking cessation and other traditional risk factors, but also the maintenance of a healthy metabolic status and the avoidance of excessive abdominal adiposity. And the second point is BMI-based definition of obesity cannot fully reflect its impact on lung cancer risk. And the effects of metabolic disorders on lung cancer can be modified by sex and smoking, with higher risk among women and smokers. In our second study, we found multiple metabolites that are associated with the risk of lung cancer, highlighting their roles in lung cancer development. And we suggest that there is a potential for incorporating metabolic biomarkers in lung cancer screening programs, but their clinical utility warrants further validation. With that, I would like to thank all my collaborators and the cohort resources, and I look forward to any questions from the audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Now I would like to welcome Dr. Renyu back on the stage for our Q&A session. Okay, please raise your hand if you have any question. Kindly introduce yourself, your name, affiliation before asking the question. Yeah, we have a lady. Is there someone passing the mic to the lady? So Dr. Renyu, maybe I can start first. I have a question. I'm just curious as a healthcare professional, when are we going to refer our patient to do a bariatric surgery? Is it when they start showing metabolic symptom, or they are actually belong to the high group of developing cancer?
A high group of developing cancer means.
For example, they have family history, or they already had the liver cirrhosis that have a high chance of developing into HCC, like for example.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are all indications already. As long as they fulfill the BMI criteria and they have any of the critical illnesses or high risk of family history of cancer, that already is a indication for you to refer. So feel free to refer, no issues. But liver cirrhosis, Charles A. lah. That also we will reassess properly and make sure that they don't go into decompensated liver failure.
Only limited to non-GI GI cancer and liver cancer. How about non-GI cancer, for example, lung cancer actually associated with metabolic syndrome as well?
So we get a lot of other non-GI cancer cases referred to us. Actually, one of our biggest referral points are, what do you call this, gynae. When it comes to malignancies or pre-malignant cancers, gynae actually refers a lot of cases to us. But yes, any risk of malignancy or cancer that has been resected, if you're worried about recurrence and they're still on the obese side, feel free to refer.
So it's, yeah.
My question is for Dr. Renyu. Hi, I'm Dr. Nazira, medical officer from HSI Johor Bahru Oncology Department. I'm actually in regards of, so we've been listening to your talk regarding obesity and the prevalence of obesity in our population. So it's a two-part question. One, you are a surgeon, obviously you are going to recommend surgical options for management of obesity. But what are the non-surgical options that we do have here in Malaysia? Number two is, what, in your opinion, is the biggest contributing factor for obesity in Malaysia? Because diet-wise, we are similar to our neighbors. We are similar to Indonesia. We are similar to Singapore. Infrastructure-wise, we are similar to Thailand in the sense that there are not many places to walk about. So what makes Malaysia especially more obese than our neighbors?
So two questions, right? The first one
Yes.
is non-surgical. So
Yes.
very good question. That would be another whole half an hour of conversation without any technical glitches. Okay. So a lot of, so like I said in the beginning of my talk, just because I'm a surgeon, that doesn't make me a butcher. So when patients come to our clinic, we always show them all three arms of surgical weight loss options, which is diet and lifestyle modification, and then you've got the medication, and we've got wonderful medication these days. From Duramin to Orlistat to the newer GLPs, and even among the GLPs, you've got mild, moderate, and the higher end GLPs, which I'm sure a lot of you are seeing trending on TikTok. You know, drugs today, I don't know, are not as controlled as we would like them to be. You can actually buy things on Shopee, which is, by the way, I do not recommend. But yes, there are a lot of wonderful weight loss medication that's there. Then you've got the endoscopic balloon as well. Not so friendly in patients who've got GERD and hiatus hernia, but that's another wonderful tool that we can use. More often than not, we combine. For example, you've got diet and medication, or diet, medication, and balloon. So we can play with it any way we like. Let's not be someone who crucifies, oh, why medication must combine with this and that. It's like it's like, you know, you can't find one solution for everything. Every patient has got multiple things going on in their life. So maybe more than one solution is there for them, you know, kind of thing. So you can mix and match as you like. It does not have to be surgery. Surgery is something that has to be done when the patient is ready. I always tell the patients, don't say yes because I'm telling you it's good for you. Say yes when you're ready, because it's a lifetime commitment. It doesn't end with the day that I chop your stomach. Yeah, that's actually the easy part. The most difficult part is actually living with it. And the first 3 months, I always tell my patients, you'll feel like punching my face. Not to get violent or, encourage violence, but yes. The first 3 months, they always say, menyesalnya aku buat operation ni. Because you don't feel like eating. But if you don't eat, you will collapse. So it's not an easy thing to undergo. Patient has to really understand what they're putting themselves into when they choose bariatric surgery. Number two, what makes us different? I don't agree that our diet is the same. I don't. I travel, and I don't think Singaporeans, as much as they think they eat like us, they don't eat like us. We eat all the time. Our government servants, our hospitals, the way we live is completely different. I think Singaporeans are a little bit more into health and lifestyle changes than us. I think we've got one of the worst lifestyles. On top of the yummy food that we eat, please, I'm not condemning our food. Our food is delicious. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But I don't agree that our diet is the same. I think ours is a lot more high calorie. We're a lot more sedentary. Stress level-wise, I guess it's the same, but I think these two things are not the same across Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore.
Can I add to the second question? Because as a foreigner, it's my second year to Malaysia, and I really like this country, and I like the Malaysian food. It's really delicious, actually, but to be honest, it carries a little bit more calorie, and the way the food is cooked is highly processed for most of the main dishes, and yeah, I think perhaps a little change in the way how the food is cooked might have a very big impact. Yeah, that's my opinion. But to be honest, I really like the food here.
I remember when I brought my mentor from Thailand and from Taiwan and India here. They've never eaten by the roadside, so I had to stop and I said, you must experience our teh tarik. And it came teh tarik 3 lapis, the 3 layers white, and then, right, you saw, right? And the first thing my mentor from Bombay, you know what he said? Wow, you get latte by the roadside? He thought it was latte. Can you imagine? He actually thought it was latte because of the layers. I said, no, boss, you need to try. So I gave him a spoon. I said, dig deep and just try this. And he said, what the? He said, this is condensed milk. You all drink this? We put it only in sweets. I'm like, yeah, we drink this. And if the shop doesn't put enough, that shop's going bankrupt.
Any more questions from the audience?
Thank you. My name is Dr. Malik. I'm from Cancer Society, Maldives. I would like to ask the question to Dr. Lee. It was very interesting to hear your talk on metabolic syndrome and lung cancer. Are we okay?
Okay, now I see you. Sorry.
Yeah. My question is the initial study that you showed was based in UK. So how much of it is applicable to Southeast Asia or Asia? One. Second thing is like for cardiology, like for heart risk, like for diabetes risk, there are certain templates, or what do you call it? I forgot the word. Risk assessment score sheets made. So have we got anything with the metabolic component added to use for lung cancer, which is being validated? Yeah.
Thank you for your question. For the first one, yeah, indeed, it's a UK-based study, and we wanted to know how the results can be generalized to other populations, such as Asians. So we are currently undergoing a study based on a very large cohort study in China, the China Kadoorie Biobank, and the preliminary results also suggest a positive association between metabolic syndrome and its components with the risk of lung cancer. And yeah, I think together with other previous studies, I think the scientific community has becoming to realize that this is a universal problem. It's not only limited in one population. Yeah, and for the second one, indeed, I think for many types of chronic diseases, including cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, etc., they are actually overlapped in many risk factors. And the current risk prediction models of lung cancer does not include the metabolic syndrome. For a few of those risk assessment tools, they include BMI. But based on our study and some others, I think it's important to realize that BMI is not an ideal biomarker, and I think it's time to shift the knowledge to get more understanding of the recently acknowledged the risk factors to build a more accurate risk prediction model for lung cancer. Thank you.
Due to the time limit, we can only allow one last question. Anyone? Maybe I think our audience is a bit shy still. but you can catch up with our speakers later in the program. Okay, so thank you so much. We have come to the end of our session. Thank you so much to our speakers again.
All right, let us take a moment to extend our sincere gratitude to all our speakers again, Dr. Renyu Rajan, Professor Dr. Rosmawati Mohamed, who joined us virtually as she pre-recorded her session, and Dr. Mengmeng Lee, and of course our esteemed moderator, Dr. Lau Zipeng. At this time, we will proceed with a brief token of appreciation ceremony with Dr. Mengmeng Lee and Dr. Renyu Rajan, presented as a gesture of gratitude on behalf of the conference organizers. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lau once again to the stage as part of the scientific committee to present a token of appreciation to our esteemed speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying with us through the insightful executive plenaries. We now move into an exciting and fast-paced segment of our program, the Rapid Fire Presentations. This session will feature 5 presenters, each with just 5 minutes to make their mark. That's 3 minutes to present and 2 minutes for Q&A. It's a high-energy format designed to spotlight new ideas, emerging research, and innovative practices. I will now pass the floor once again to Dr. Lau to introduce our presenters and facilitate the rapid fire segment.
Okay, so the first presenter will be Associate Professor Dr. Suniza Jamaris. She has 2 abstracts today. The first will be Awareness, Perception and Practice toward TCM Regulation and Factors Influencing Use of Registered TCM Practitioners Among Breast Cancer Patients at UMMC. The second abstract will be Early Cancer Detection Training for Primary Care Providers in Malaysia, Experience from the Rebone Cancer Care in Primary Care short course.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank to the organizing committee to invite me to and accepted to of our project. It is very honored for me to present today what we have done for the past few years. So for the first presentation is about awareness, perception and practice toward TNCM, traditional and complementary medicine, regulation, and what are the factors influencing use of registered TCM practitioners among breast cancer patients at UMMC. This is actually my, is done by my master student, she is a pharmacist. She would like to see how our breast cancer patient knows about there is a presence of regulation for the TNCM. As you know, in Malaysia, it's well known to have almost half of our patients went for the traditional medicine. But do we know there is an act actually? So there is an act to basically to protect all the consumers that consume the TNCM and also to ensure there is a qualified practice. So TNCM is very common in breast cancer patients. So that's why she approached me and I said, yeah, why don't we go ahead with this? And what this study is supposed to look at the awareness, what is their perception and how they practice and what are the factors that are associated with it. So the study done in a UMMC outpatient clinic from May to August 2024, there is a 232 participant. And it's just a self-administered, very simple study, self-administered, validated trilingual questionnaire, which is Malay, Chinese, and as well as English version. And what we collect is basically about the socio-demographic, clinical background and awareness, perception, and also as well as the practice. And what we found, what did the patient thinks is actually 59.5% had a positive perceptions toward this regulation. And but there are half of them is still have a low awareness. There is a presence of the such regulation, And 31.9% is unsure, and 17.2% disagree regulation protects from bogus practitioner. So 50% actually lack confidence, but you can see that another 50% have a confidence to the TCM as healthcare option. So who consulted registered practitioners among our breast cancer patients that is involved in this study? 85.3% consulted registered TNCM practitioner. You can see that even though there are low awareness about the regulation, but 85.3% actually consulted registered. And whoever that have high awareness about the regulation, 22.43 times actually linked to get more consultation about this TNCM. However, the non-users of TNCM, they did not ever use the TNCM, actually 3 times likely to consult registered practitioners, and then 88.7% actually, support these competency checks, and 57.3% prefer annual reviews. So what we can do about this? How we strengthen this? Awareness and trust, they still exist. So we, as you know, I would like to invite everyone to actually enhance education by awareness and improve visibility of registration of all the TNCM to ensure that our patient is being protected. And last but not least, engage public in regulation development, as of course. This is the last words that I would like to everyone aware about this is trust is built when awareness meets accountability. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
We welcome any question from the audience. Doctor, I'm just wondering, I mean, I know that it's common for cancer patients to seek for TCM treatment, but usually the physician, the oncologist would recommend not to because it might, affect the effectiveness of the chemotherapy or, the therapy that they're going on. So what's your plan on this?
Okay, so by the words itself, traditional and complementary medicine. So that is already represent that is not a main thing that the patient have to seek when they have a cancer, when they diagnosed to have a cancer. This is mainly for the complementary, for example, like if patient have pain, actually we can go for acupuncture, for example. So it means that that's why the one that worry, especially oncology and me myself also, first diagnosis, they straight away went for the TNCM. It's not a best practice. The best practice is conventional, is still the first one that they have to look at, And then they will be explained for my next presentation, why patient presented late. So I suppose the complementary is always complementary. It's not the main thing. That is what I try to mention here. But what this study about is to ensure that our patient knows there is such a regulation for them to protect themselves whenever that they consume, or because they are consumer, whether they've been protected if any, bogus practitioners. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we can proceed to the second presentation.
Okay, my second presentation I would like to share with you is this is already done for the past since 2022. So I would like to thank the organizer committee to invite me. To not invite. I'm the one who said the abstract. So, but what I would like to say that this is very important for our general practitioner out there. There is such an online training for them for early cancer detection. This online training we call it as a Rebung Cancer Care in Primary Care short course. We have developed since 2019 with more than 30 specialists who specialize in cancer care, and we also involve the family medicine specialists to ensure that we are not out, we are not too focused to our specialty like breast cancer, So what are the biggest challenge when we talk about managing breast cancer? Late cancer presentation is always the most common, biggest challenge for us. When we talk about biggest challenge, it means that if they come with a late presentation, of course, the treatment will be complex. When it's become complex, patient will run away, So what is been reported recently is an alarming reported by Malaysia National Cancer Registry mentioned that instead of improving numbers of patients with stage 1 and stage 2, but this become increasing, half of our breast cancer patient presented at least at stage 3 and stage 4. And this is not uncommon for colorectal, cervical, as well as lung cancer. So why is there a delay? I would like to warn you, because I will put a picture that is just not to scare you, but that is what what we actually managing the patient. You just imagine in UMMC, in so-called urban area, we still have this kind of patient in Malaysia. So why is there the delay? We always blame a patient, you came late, but the healthcare system also involved, in our study showing that there is a healthcare delay. Okay, so healthcare delay, it can be because of the delayed referral from the general practitioner. Why is there a delay in terms of referral? Because there is a lack in terms of literacy towards early detection as well as cancer screening. So we developed with more than 30 specialists, we developed an online training in open learning platform. And then we have a case discussion before and after the online training. It is very flexible for the general practitioner, because I know they are very busy with their own schedule, to run the clinic, and then it's very accessible, and then it's quite interactive, because we do have a webinar where we have a case discussion with our general practitioner. Okay, you can see there are 7 topics, there are 7 modules that involve in this online training. So 5 of them is about the cancer itself, breast cancer, 5 top cancers in Malaysia: breast cancer, lung cancer, cervical cancer, colorectal cancer, and as well as prostate cancer. But we also have a psychosocial support module to guide us how to support them, and as well as navigate the general practitioner how to refer and so on and so forth. So Rebon Cancer Care and Primary Care shortcuts is already make a difference. How we said that we found that this is given a feedback, there is a positive impact in terms of knowledge that lead to our general practitioner. More than 90% of them would like, to intend to change their practice for their cancer and early diagnosis practice. And even we can see from 2000, for your information, we already have 3 cohort, 2022, 23 and 24. Initially, we have a difficulty getting a lot general practitioner, and yet multidisciplinary approach. We get MMA involved, we get FMSA, Family Medicine Specialists Association, AFPM. So we got a lot more participant for this training. And what we found that even though there is a drop numbers of completion rate, but still, because of their busy schedule, but the response is quite good, because we have about 200 participants join us in 2024. And we also will have another online training this year in August. So we'd like to invite everyone who is interested to join this online training. So there is, of course, because of the busy schedule, as I mentioned, the engagement problem, so there is key for improvement in terms of flexibility of the learning and option for better schedule. So last but not least, if you empowered our GPs, empowered our primary care providers in Malaysia, we can get early diagnosis, we can get better outcome for breast cancer. With that, I end my presentation with thank you.
Any question from the audience? Please raise your hand. All right. Thank you, Dr. Suniza.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, oh, sorry, there's one question over. Yeah, sorry, sir. Anyone passing the mic, please? Oh, yeah, you may.
Okay, good question, but it's actually we already have a participant from Indonesia who joined us. We are going towards globally, but mainly we try to, the module is mainly for Malaysia, but we try to improve time by time for the global approach, So like we do have Indonesian students that participate in this online training. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we will have our next presenter, Farhana Radwan. Her topic is Assessment of the Association of Infertility Treatment with Breast Cancer Risk in a Tertiary Referral Hospital.
Greetings and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Farhana. I'm from UKM. My topic today is assessment of the association of infertility treatment with breast cancer risk in a tertiary referral hospital. So I'm today here with my professor, Prof. Dr. Norlia. She's a consultant breast surgeon. She's here as a support. And then for my presentation, as a background, so about 70 to 80% of breast cancer are estrogen positive. So women who underwent infertility treatment were given exogenous fertility drugs such as Clomid or gonadotropins for stimulating ovarian follicles. These drugs elevate estrogen and progesterone for the purpose. So given that mammary gland is a tissue which are sensitive to hormones to begin with, the raise in estrogen could potentially increase the risk of developing breast cancer. However, the correlation between infertility treatment and breast cancer risk remains unresolved. For example, one study found strong association with breast cancer with women who use fertility drugs, but another found there was no association. Therefore, our study aimed to assess whether there is an association between infertility treatment with breast cancer. So this is a retrospective study, data analysis on all women who came to our breast clinic in HTM. So they were categorized into breast cancer and non-breast cancer group, and each group were subdivided into exposed to infertility treatment and non-exposed to the treatment. All demographic and gynecological data, infertility data were recorded. So from 104 subjects recruited, only 12.8% of all women diagnosed with breast cancer has fertility treatment some point in their lives, while 6.2% of non-breast cancer patients has fertility treatment. So this table also visualizes an increase in proportion of breast cancer cases among women who receive fertility treatment, about 55% compared to those who did not. So even though there is a result that shows high proportion of breast cancer among those who receive fertility treatment, further analysis of chi-square with continuity correction show no significant association between both variables. So similarly, there was also no association found between breast cancer and ethnicity, marital status, breastfeeding status, contraceptive use, and family history of breast cancer. So based on this preliminary analysis, there appear to be no significant association between infertility treatment and breast cancer among women in our study population. So our study is limited by a small sample size and incomplete data that warrants for cautious interpretation. So moving forward, a larger cohort study is needed for more meaningful conclusion. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any question from the floor? You may raise your hand. If not, we thank Farhana. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we welcome the next presenter, Dr. Ashley Zukapli. His topic is on bridging the gap, mammogram uptake patterns, and the critical role of subsides in expanding access among underserved women in Malaysia.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Ashley Faiza Zukapli. I'm the Clinical Services Lead at National Cancer Society Malaysia. Today, I'll be presenting on our study on mammogram uptake patterns and the critical roles of subsidies in increasing access among undeserved women. So breast cancer continues to be the leading cause of cancer among Malaysian women, and mammography is a gold standard tool for early detection and improved survival, yet uptake remains worrying low. So we know in Malaysia, over 70% of eligible Malaysian women have never had their mammogram. So this statistic is not just data, it's actually missed opportunity for thousands of women. So what is the biggest barrier? It's actually cost, especially among women from the B40 and M40 backgrounds, which are defined in our context as household incomes below 10,000 per month. So this is where subsidies from government bodies and NGOs play a vital role. So our objective was to analyze mammogram uptake, trends at our clinic, at Community Health Screening Clinic at NCCM Kuala Lumpur, focusing on first the payment type, whether the patient's self-paid or it's subsidized, age group by decades, and patient status, whether they're new to our clinic or they're returning patients to our clinic. And more importantly, to evaluate whether subsidies are truly reaching the right populations and how they are shifting access dynamics. So we conducted a retrospective review over 12 months period, January to December 2024, at our clinic at Kuala Lumpur. We categorized the data again by payment status, age by decade groups, and patient status. One important note, so this data only includes women who had access to our clinic in Kuala Lumpur. Yet, despite being in KL based, we saw women coming from neighboring states. In fact, under some government subsidy schemes, buses were arranged for a group of women coming from the same area. So these women are willing to travel far for trusted and affordable screening, but only when cost and logistic are no longer barriers. So this shows how urgent the need is and how limited access still is pertinent in many communities. So what did we find? We conducted 5,797 mammograms in that 1 year period. And out of those, a massive 96% were subsidized, so meaning we are hitting the right populations. And the majority of new patients, over 3,500 women, they did came from B40 and M40 backgrounds. And 57% of those who received subsidies were the age 40 to 59. So these two, important decades for early breast cancer detection. A small but important clarification, when we say they're a new patient to our clinic, so it doesn't mean that they've never had a mammogram in their life. But due to costs, they've had a mammogram many years ago, and because of cost, they couldn't keep coming back for regular screening. So subsidies really gave them a chance to finally return to care in a way that felt possible and safe. So there are 5 takeaways from this very simple study. So first, subsidies equal access. So without financial support, thousands of these women would simply never come to our clinic door. And subsidies open doors. For many women, it may not be their first ever mammogram, but it's often the first in many years because they simply couldn't afford it anymore. Thirdly, it's about equity. So access should not depend on income, postcode, or privilege. Every woman deserves the chance for early detection. It's about survival, as the saying goes. Early detection saves lives, and most importantly, it must be sustainable. So if we're serious about reducing the cancer mortality in Malaysia, these subsidy programs must not only continue, they have to expand nationwide. So with subsidies, we have observed increased screening uptake. In the future, expanding this initiative nationwide while including logistical support as part of the subsidy will enable us to bring more women from the undeserved areas to mammogram services, improving access and early detection. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ashley. Any question from the audience? Dr. Ashley, I'm just wondering that apart from subsidies, is there any other factor that can encourage women to come for the mammogram?
Other factor. So we're talking about barriers then. So one of the biggest barriers is cost, but the other barrier is actually awareness. So that's why health education is very important. So in NCCM, we have awareness, multi-language. So Indian, Mandarin, Tamil, Mandarin, English, and Malay. So across all of our social media, we do that. So to increase awareness, that's another thing.
All right, thank you so much. So we welcome our last presenter of this rapid fire session, Dr. Vigneswari Subramaniam. Her topic is Regional Determinants of HPV Vaccine Implementation in Malaysia, a cross-sectional analysis from the Leaving No One Behind 1.0 program.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. You can address me as Dr. Vicky. I'm representing NCSM today, Deputy Medical Director from NCSM. So it's my pleasure to share one of our recent projects that we have done last year, where we have targeted and vaccinated those who have missed out vaccinations from the National Immunization Program for HPV. So we have vaccinated about 287,280 boys and girls from the age of 13 to 20 years old. So our study population was across Malaysia. We covered all 222 parliamentary constituencies, and we had Malaysians, but 10% of it was actually refugees and stateless and people who are not Malaysians. Yeah, so the objective of this study was done retrospectively. It was actually to determine what are the regional factors influencing HPV vaccine uptake in Malaysia, as well as to assess barriers and enablers for the uptake and delivery of HPV vaccines in Malaysia. So we have actually developed a national cancer screening registry within NCSM. So all these patients who are vaccinated, this data, their demographic status was actually taken in and documented into the National Cancer Screening Registry. Then we cross-checked with the local state health departments, and we also took out data from them of those who have missed out vaccination. So this was done in 3 phases. Phase 1 was actually going down and giving awareness about HPV. So we distributed multilingual survey forms that was created by NCSM. So this was basically in Bahasa, English, Mandarin, Tamil, as well as IBAN for Sarawak. So what we have identified was, this was given to its healthcare professionals, this was given to local leaders, the clients themselves, those who are taking the vaccines, as well as people who are from the community who's coming forward just to understand what is HPV and why are we vaccinating them. Okay, so what we have identified was obviously the glaring difference in the uptake was that West Malaysia definitely took the most of the vaccines. In phase 2, West Malaysia's numbers were excellent compared to East Malaysia and East Coast. East Coast had the poorest uptake of vaccine despite being given the, I would say, an additional effort in phase 1. We went in quite aggressively to Kelantan, Terengganu and Pahang, but yet we had a lot of barriers. So the top barriers that we identified was actually religion, number 1. Misconceptions. One of the common misconceptions that we got was that HPV vaccination was associated with an STD. So a lot of parents were actually worried that vaccination would cause the child to have the STI. That was number 1. That was a misconception. Second thing is that, would it encourage this child to subsequently be sexually active if I vaccinate my child now? This was a regular concept that we had over there. And of course, minimal education, poor community engagement from the other side. Compared to West Malaysia, where we had excellent health literacy, we had infrastructure, we had access, so the communication of the awareness of vaccine and the presence of free vaccine was very easy because it was done in the Klang Valley and NCSM's yellow building was there. So everybody knew, if I walk into this building from this timing to this timing, I can get this vaccine. Yeah. And then we had the East Malaysia, we had Sabah and Sarawak. So Sarawak's uptake was excellent, and despite having geographical barriers, logistical costs, poor facility access, but Sarawak's beauty was that we had a lot of NGO support from the local side, as well as the support from the Deputy Minister of Health, YB Professor Sim. So the gimmick of him coming in and giving in the first jab in Sarawak made so much of difference. Everybody wanted to come forward to take the vaccine. So what I'm trying to say is politicians do make a difference, and people do trust politicians as well. So the conclusions, recommendations that we have come up with is, if we were to give a program as such, a massive vaccination program across Malaysia, probably Southeast Asia and later global, targeted towards the lower and middle income countries especially. Number one, specific communication is necessary to specific communities. It must be tailored case-to-case basis. That means there's no hard and fast rule. The SOPs or policies do not apply on the ground. This is more of an implementation case-to-case. Second thing was that community outreach must be done using familiar faces on the ground. This increased the uptakes of vaccine tremendously. And logistics support and digital health systems, especially digital health systems that does not require internet. That was crucial in the outreach programs, because we had one trial project that we were doing with the US where we had satellite-based digital health system, and that helped our project roll out in Sarawak, especially in locations where we had to bring the vaccines by boat instead of by car. Yeah, so thank you. Questions?
Thank you. Any question from the audience? Can't wait for the lunch. Oh yeah, we have one.
Okay, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the excellent presentation. I was
Thank you, Prof.
intrigued by what you mentioned about the politician's
Yeah.
role. I was curious about whether you had tried to do a similar approach in the East Coast. Did it not work because maybe the politician was not as well known, or if it did happen but people didn't care?
Okay, so it's a sensitive question. Okay, but I will try to address it in a very neutral manner. So actually, we had a few phases like I've described earlier. So in phase one, what we have done was we went to everyone in the state. So we went from the highest level, which was the royal families, followed by the state health departments, followed by the federal departments under each state. That means we went to district officers, and then under the district officers, they have got about 18 subdivisions. So all of them were involved in this project. Everybody received a letter. Everyone knew that there was leaving no one behind 1.0 happening, because there's a 2.0 coming up soon. So what happened was some politicians obviously took it very aggressively. They came forward. Some royal family was heavily involved, namely Johor, Tuanku Zara from Perak, because Tuanku Nazrin is royal patron for NCCM. Tuanku Zara pledged and went to all 8 districts of Perak with us. She came in together with us. She vaccinated together with us. And she was on the ground addressing misconceptions. So there were people like that. And there were also politicians who are also influenced in these misconceptions. They were not having any awareness on HPV. They were not having I would say it's also a little bit biased, because HPV is related to cervical cancer. So when we had to go and speak to some male politicians, they were not receiving it as easily as the female politicians as well. These are all true stories that I'm sharing. So yeah, there you have it. Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Malik, 20% of our vaccinees were boys, 10% were refugees out of that. Yeah, so definitely the girls had more priority, because NCSM we were actually targeting cervical cancer elimination. So definitely we were targeting girls more than boys. But having said that, we also pledged and went in, especially to high risk. When I said boys, we went to every states, and then the district education officers actually came forward to us and said, you know what, there are some colleges in this state, especially East Malaysia, that has high risk for STDs. So we were quite surprised when we went in, we saw condoms on the floor. It was that bad. Yeah, and there was a lot of illicit behaviors in some colleges. So when we went in, we also addressed the portion of sex education. Subtly, we went in, we spoke about healthy sex practices, and then we spoke about HPV, the risk of having HPV, and then we vaccinate. So about 20%, Dr. Malik. Yep. Yeah, quite hungry myself.
Any more questions from the audience before we go for a lunch break?
Thank you, Doctor. I have one question.
Oh, yes.
I'm Dr. Shamli from Magna.
Hi, Doctor.
I just want to ask, because you said the lowest uptake was at East Coast and one of the main reason was religion.
Yeah.
So what is your advice to break that barrier? What do you think we can do about it?
Okay, so I'm a Hindu myself. Okay, but when we went in, especially in states of Kelantan and Terengganu, we had excellent support from the spiritual leaders. I have to be very honest about this. Despite me going in as an Indian doctor, the spiritual leaders were all out. Okay, the Islamic leaders of the states were saying, let's do this, doctor. Let's go in and let's do what we can. So the imams and all the people who were involved in the mosque and the surahs, they came. But the community was heavily engaged in their own misconceptions. So to break it, probably a familiar face, conveying the message that I'm supposed to be conveying, probably I break it down to someone else, and that person convey it to them. That was one approach we took. That helped to a certain bit. The other thing was we have to start localized health awareness, and it has to be probably subjected and entered into their curricular activities. It has to be done in a more subconscious manner rather than a conscious manner. Second is, see a doctor coming in speaking about vaccines, especially post-COVID. There was the other resistance we had, so everybody was very worried about vaccines. Yeah, so probably targeted subconscious curricular activities, you know, highlighting HPV. Anything else? Quite hungry again. Yeah, you can catch me in the side. Okay, I'm around. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vicky. Once again, a round of applause for our track chair this morning, Dr. Lau Zipeng, who played such a significant role to facilitate today's morning's plenary and also rapid-fire presentations, and to our esteemed presenters as well. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our exciting morning session. Now it's time for a well-deserved lunch break. Lunch will be served at the observation deck, ground floor, Sunway College. Fret not, our volunteers and usherers will usher you your way. And just a reminder, that's our lunch venue for all 3 days. For our Muslim participants, the surau is located on the mezzanine floor, east wing of Sunway University. And for those attending Friday prayers, the nearest mosque is Masjid Al-Husna, Bandar Sunway. I will repeat once again, the nearest mosque is Masjid Al-Husna, Bandar Sunway. Please be back in this hall by 2:30 p.m. as we have a powerful afternoon lineup, including the opening ceremony. Thank you so much. Enjoy your lunch and have a blessed Friday. Thank you.